Thanks for having me. Glad to be here with you guys.
Good to have you. So, I mean, to kick off with, let's just go straight into it. What? How do you define quantum energy coaching? How do you define that?
So, quantum energy coaching is a process that you can use to essentially reprogram your subconscious mind. So, usually, in somewhere in childhood, whether it's our parents or an outside factor, we have traumas that come up and things that that are programmed into our subconscious mind. When you're from birth until about age 6 or 7, you're essentially in a state of hypnosis. You're just kind of like, you know, going around and everything's just like and you're developing programs in your mind and your subconscious mind. And then when you kind of get to that age of 6 or 7, that's when you kind of are starting to jump out of that brainwave state of kind of a hypnosis, and then you're able to start making thoughts on your own. So everything that has been kind of installed in those earlier years are now kind of solidified in your subconscious mind. And so that all that stuff can happen in early childhood. It can happen in adult years as well with trauma. So essentially, quantum energy coaching is we're identifying those traumas or those programs that are unserving to you, and we like to release those and then reprogram them in the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is operating 95% of the time. You're sleeping, you're awake. Your subconscious mind is 95% of the time operating. It's what's pumping your heart. It's what's breathing. Everything that's happening in your body that you don't think about is your subconscious mind running that. Now your conscious mind is running about 5% of the time. So if you were to break this down into, say, like an operating system or a computer, your subconscious is like, I think it's like 5 billion bits per second or something like that, and your conscious mind is much less. Like I don't know don't quote me on the exact numbers. Bruce Lipton would know better, but it's maybe 100,000 bits per second in your conscious mind. So if you want to make a true change into programs, you want to do it on the subconscious level. So when dealing with like a lot of talk therapies, you're mostly just in your conscious mind. You're in your analytical mind, and you're just kind of just talking about your problems, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. And I love to work with people who have gone through talk therapies, because they've talked about a lot of this stuff, and they can get directly to kind of what's ailing them. And so then we can come in with the subconscious work to change the programming around.
Hmm. Do you know when you say so traumas affect you mostly between the ages of 0 to 6 years old? I guess in them sort of development years, any small little thing would be considered an extreme trauma. Um, so coming out of it, if you go from the ages, I'm going to say through the teenage years, when you properly start experimenting and life's really changing and challenging for you during them years, is what how do I word it? So, how significant are teenage years in comparison to the 0 to 6 when dealing with
I mean,
traumas?
yeah. So, well, I mean, so a trauma can be like traumatic, and it doesn't, if you go through a serious trauma, it doesn't really matter what age you are. That's going to affect you. It's going to affect your subconscious. You're going to create programs around that. You're going to have fears around it. It could happen today, and it could completely affect your whole life, right? When you're younger, in those kind of like 0 to 6 or 7, any you're just picking up on anything, like, and it's the way someone looks at you, like uh really, like, so take COVID for example. When there's children around and everyone was wearing a mask, you couldn't see the facial expressions of people. So like these kids, though, they don't know what's going on. So you like even a baby could look at an adult, and you're smiling at the little baby, or if you have a scowl on your face, like that's information coming into a developing mind. So, you're wearing that mask and you couldn't see anything going on, like any, form of communication from facial expressions. I don't know if I got off topic, but you were just saying, oh yeah, you were saying, yeah. So to answer your question, yeah, trauma can affect you at any point in your life.
So the way I'm looking at this in particular is myself. I can only really relate to my own upbringing. I'm 27, so as soon as I sort of hit the teenage years, that's when I would sit on a computer more. That's when I would play video games a lot more. That's when I would do a lot of different stuff than when I was sort of younger. But now we've got a generation of kids between the ages of 0 to 6 who are considered sort of like the iPad kids, who are always just stuck on their devices. How is that going to impact their subconscious, or how do you project that impact being on their subconscious moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, so if you're online all the time and you're on your iPad, whether it's like video games or whatever it is, but you're probably most likely going to be subjected to some form of like advertising, or say, like you're on Instagram, even like as a teenager, and you're looking through and you're seeing all the perfect things of everybody, right? The perfect body, the women have the perfect body, men, or everything's perfect, right? So automatically you're having that standard set for you, and that's that can be a program right there. So you're going to go through your after having that program kind of set in and installed, you're going to be going through life thinking that you're subpar. My body's not like the perfect magazine cover or this ad that you're seeing on whatever TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is. So that's going to be an adverse program that's being installed into your subconscious just by seeing those, especially at a younger age. Like if you are in those early developmental ages, you're going to see that, and that's your, I guess, your goal, or this is how you're supposed to be in life. You're supposed to be perfect, and the tan and the slim body and everything, all that stuff. So that that right there could be a major program that can affect somebody for life, give you low self-esteem, and all sorts of things can happen just from that right there. So
what do you think some good practices are for parents to, when they're raising children in between the age of 0 and 7, to help them develop in the sort of best way possible, and not like to minimize any like negative effects later on in their life?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny because, like, well, we're talking about like social media, or being on your screens, and I'm guilty of doom scrolling Instagram, but it's funny because sometimes I get these, like, I grew up in the 80s pages, and it's like kids riding their bikes, and they're going off a jump on their BMX bike, jumping over like 5 people, and just stuff like that. So I would say, like, connecting with nature, getting outside, have the limited screen time for your kids, get them outside, or even if they are on their screen, like, just maybe check in with them, like, hey, what did you see on the, you're playing your video game, or I noticed you were on, like, what did you see? And if your kid's willing to share, and like maybe you can kind of interject in a program that's being developed there, like, this isn't how the real world is. Not everybody looks like a Maxim model. So yeah, just communicating with your kids, and being involved in their what they're doing on the screen. Don't just hand them the phone, and then that's your excuse to go do something that you want to do, right? Oh, the kids, they're occupied, it's fine, because you don't know what they're being subjected to.
So with the quantum energy coaching, what's the sort of process that you take to sort of enter someone's subconscious mind, or I guess allow the person to enter their subconscious mind? What's the process you take?
Yeah, so there is a process, and that comes at so quantum energy coaching is about a 90-minute session, and a loose structure of a coaching call, and it's all on Zoom. It can be all online. You can do it in person as well, of course, but it works just great online. So a structure of a coaching session is around 45 minutes of talking, of like talk therapy. What's going on, what's what's troubling you, and like, let's get to the root cause of that. So we'll talk about that. And as we're doing that, we're going to be identifying statements. So I use the fear of flying as an example all the time. So, and actually I've used this example and had somebody say, I have a fear of flying. And right there on the spot, we did a session in a hotel lobby. And I saw her a few months later and she's like, yeah, it's great. Like, my husband has a jet and we fly and I'm fine. And I think it really works. So anyways, so I use the fear of flying as an example. And so you have a fear of flying. So tell me about that. What is it? So the person will usually say, like, well, when I fly, I'm super anxious, I'm nervous, I'm tense, I'm tight. And so we'll explore that. Okay. So what, like, where do you feel that anxiousness, like, in your body? So the anxiousness is an emotion, and we want to find out where it is located in your body. Where's your body storing that? And they'll say, well, it's in my chest, or it's in my stomach, or my head, wherever it is. So we can develop a statement. When I fly, I release all anxiousness, tightness, frustration, fear, whatever it is around flying, from that part of my body. So that would be the releasing statement. I release the emotion from this part of my body around the subject that we're working on, like a fear of flying. So that's the releasing statement. And I'll go into, okay, so we create that statement. So then we want to, and the beauty about the quantum energy coaching is that it's called a magic wand statement. So if you had a magic wand, how do you want to feel? If any outcome was possible in the world, the best case scenario in the entire universe, possibilities are endless. How do you want to feel when you fly? And the person's going to, well, I want to feel safe. I want to be comfortable, happy, maybe excited to go to a new destination. So boom, right there, that is our reprogramming statement. When I fly, I'm happy, calm, excited, whatever it is, that's the reprogram. So you have the releasing statement of the fears and whatever it is and where it is in your body. And then you have the reprogramming coming in on how do you want to feel in this situation? So kind of your question was, how do we access the subconscious mind? So now we get to this point where we have a list of statements, right? And it's usually around 10 statements or so. And so there's an installation process. So what we do is, and I was mentioning this to you on the call, if you wanted to do this, the first step is a heart coherent breath. So this is based from Heart Math Institute out of California. This is a technique. So you literally, if you guys want to do this,
yeah, we'll do it.
And whoever's listening can do this as well. And this is a tool that you can use in your daily life at any point, like if you're feeling any anxiety, stress, whatever it is. So this is a heart coherent breath. So you can place both hands just over your heart, and you can kind of envision that there's a hole in the back of your hands. And as you take a breath in, take it in through the back of your hands into your heart, and just kind of envision your heart expanding. And as you exhale, that breath comes back out through your hands, and you can kind of envision your heart contracting. So if you want to close your eyes, you can do it. If not, it's fine. So you kind of just take a breath in through the back of your hands. Your heart expands. As you exhale, your heart contracts, and that breath comes back out through your hands. So just take that breath in through the back of your hands, expanding your heart. As you exhale, your heart contracts, that breath comes back out through your hands. So you can kind of we'll just do a few more of these, but you can just envision breathing with your heart instead of your lungs. Take as many as you guys feel like you need.
Yeah, you can. It feels like you're pinpointing, like you're really putting a lot of focus into. Whereas usually, I guess if you're using the 95%, it's just happening. That is you going in with your conscious mind to actually feel the breaths. I've never done that before.
Exactly. So it kind of pulls you. You're focusing on your heart, so it's pulling you out of your analytical mind, And, it's changing your brain waves a little bit. It's getting you out of that high beta, especially if you're like, I'll get on a call with people and, they'll be like, and I'm just like, whoa, let's breathe. Cause like you just said 100 things and, so let's just calm down. And so this really kind of, it gets you out of that high beta, maybe moves you a little more toward an alpha brainwave state. So, and gets you a little more grounded, a little more connected to what's going on. Okay, so why do we do that? So that heart coherent breath, that's the first step in accessing the subconscious mind. So we do the heart coherent breath, and then we go into a whole brain posture. And so, well, you cross over your feet and you cross over your arms like this, and you interlock your fingers. And I think I broke my knuckles, so I can't really do this too well right now. But this is a whole brain posture. So in doing this, crossing over your feet and your ankles, crossing over your arms, interlocking your fingers like so, is both hemispheres of your brain are kind of on the same. They're firing at the same energy, same brain. It just kind of ties both hemispheres together. So we're heart coherent. We're in a whole brain posture. And then I ask you to go into a state of gratitude, whatever that is for you. It could be your pet. It could be your kid. It could be some like beautiful beach, sunset that you just saw the other day. Whatever brings you a sense of gratitude, just find that. So we're crossed over, and we find that sense of gratitude. And the person, I'll say, tell me when you feel that deep state of gratitude, love, appreciation. And, the person will say yes. And then we'll start going in through the statements. So repeat after me. When I fly, I release all anxiety, tightness, stiffness, from my chest, shoulders, and head, whatever it is. And so I'll say the statement, they'll repeat it, and then we'll just give that time. We'll let that. So in being crossed over, in heart coherence, in gratitude, you just put your foot in the door to the quantum field. So you really just open that up. So, and gratitude is the ultimate form of a receivership. So you're in a heightened state at this point. You're in a higher form of frequency that you can really send out into the quantum field. And so in repeating that statement, you're kind of sending that out in a higher frequency, a higher brainwave, a better brainwave state to make that change. So I let the statement settle. Okay, so let that sink into your subconscious and just let it sit there. Sometimes if the statement's long, they'll ask me to repeat it. So I'll say it again. And so we just let that drop in, and I'll say, just let me know when you feel like that's taking place, and you kind of get a feel for it. So after that, we uncross everything and we put our 5 fingertips together and we seal it into the subconscious mind. So this process right here just kind of puts the lid on it, seals it in, sends the information out to the field, and you can make that change in your life. And so that's the process we do for each statement. Cross over, go into gratitude, say the statement, uncross, seal it in. And that's pretty much how a session goes.
Once you follow that process for one session and one statement, is that then solidified in your subconscious, or do you have to keep practicing the same process over and over?
No, it is. No, it's a one and done deal. Yeah, these aren't mantras that you need to keep repeating over and over again. So you've sent that information into your subconscious. You've sent it out into the quantum, and so it's a one and done deal. Now after a session, after we do all those statements, around 24 hours, 48 hours later, we'll let it take its place. We'll let it integrate, and I'll send the client all the statements for them to read and go over. And so this is kind of the key point. So the outcome that you want is we're dealing with something that has given you an emotion, and a negative emotion from a memory, right? So the key to this is the memory is always going to be there, no matter what the trauma is. You can't just erase the memory. And I don't know how advanced hypnosis works, or if you can erase the memory, but with quantum energy coaching, the memory is always going to be there, but it's the emotional charge that we're after. So a memory, and I'm quoting Joe Dispenza here, a memory without the emotional charge is called wisdom. So that's what we're looking for. So I'll send the client the statements. They'll go through, and if they're reading a statement that they, had a fear of flying and they were anxious and all that stuff about it, and they don't feel that anymore, then that's a great sign that that worked and it took its place. Now, if you do feel emotion around it still, that's a good sign that we didn't tap into the root cause. So maybe we need to look a little deeper to see what that actual root cause is of this, this subject that you're working on and trying to help yourself with. And that's usually I find when people do still have a charge around it, or still feeling the emotion, it's something from childhood. So I usually my next question will be parents. And I get an intake form, so I know if there was major traumas in the childhood, but that's not really something you want to work on in the beginning, the first couple sessions. It's maybe more surface things. It's really peeling the layer of an onion, and dealing with one issue, and then you're like, hey, well, maybe that's what's causing that. And then you just peeled another layer, and then you get, when I went through the training myself, and I'll never forget this, because I pinpointed where my road rage came from. Road, when you're driving and someone cuts you, what the, you get pissed and you're sitting in your car, it's crazy, right? So I was going through the training, and we were doing so much work peer to peer. I was releasing so much stuff that I came to the point where I pinpointed the exact morning when I was driving with my dad. We were driving down the highway and somebody cut him off. I don't know what happened, but he got so angry. And I was probably 8, 7, 8, I don't know, 9, 10. And he got so pissed, flipping her off, calling her a bitch, all this stuff. And it was that was a trauma for me to sit there and experience that, and how the anger that he felt. And so, that was just a prime example of me, how that was a program that was created in my mind that I was playing out, 30 years, 40 years later on the road, and, wherever it was. I think it was I used to have a lot of road rage in San Francisco, but I got a lot better after doing sessions around it.
Oh, with trauma at them ages, say if someone comes to you that is in the 30s or late 30s or 40s or even 50s, 60s, and they can't identify what exactly it was that's caused it, is there a process you take for them to try and get to grips with what it was that's initially caused this sort of?
Yeah. So it's going to it's going to be, we're going to deal with the issue and the emotions first, right? So, maybe we don't get to the root cause in one session. It could take a big trauma that, you've been carrying with you your whole life. That could take a lot of work to get to the core of that, because you have so much built on top of that now. So it's like peeling that layer, and hopefully eventually it'll come to light where that came from.
Right. And what I'm seeing at the moment, and I guess there might be quite a few people who haven't necessarily had any severe trauma during the childhood, but as they sort of grow up, there's a quite an ongoing trend with nihilism at the moment, and a lot of people sort of grow up, come into the world, and then feel like they don't belong in the world. What sort of, I guess, when there's no trauma to identify and they're just fed up with the day-to-day going of life, is it a different process you take for people to start appreciating and taking gratitude in what they have, if no trauma has caused any issue for them?
Yeah, I mean, totally. You could totally work on that. Things that are, I guess, maybe not as, I don't want to say not as serious, but I work with people around money issues or social situations. I have a client where it's social going to the club in New York City, whatever fears are people, talking talking behind their back about that, working on things like that where, and that kind of is what you're talking about, where they don't feel accepted or, so, and just, so you're never going to be able to control what other people are thinking about you. But what you can control is how you react to that, right? So say somebody, oh my God, somebody said, blah, blah, this about you. Like, so take that and let's work on that and how you react to that, right? So if so-and-so said this about you and you're like, oh my God, that MRFer, like, blah, you just like, you're giving that person all your energy and they didn't even talk to you, right? They're doing something else over here with somebody else. You're over here and and they just go on with, it might've just been something they said when they were buzzed and had a drink, right? And the word passes through and the person who said it probably completely forgot about it. And you're over here stewing and pissed or anxious or whatever it is. So you're just giving that energy away to like nothing, right? So it's really controlling how you're feeling yourself around, those kinds of situations of not belonging or, things like that. So that can definitely be worked on. And there is also a manifestation aspect to this as well. So you are dealing with the quantum field. So I have done things around money and bringing in money, bringing in relationships. I'm not going to tell you that, I did a session with somebody, now they're a multimillionaire, but, just feeling better about that. So there is that aspect too of, really a manifestation aspect to the sessions as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's quite clear that if you're, I guess, in a rut and you just keep thinking about the rut and keep complaining about the rut, you're never really going to break free of it, because that's all your manifestations sort of being drilled into.
Yeah. So, the universe, the quantum field, your creator, whatever we're calling it, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is for you, you stay in those lower states, you're going to be, you're sending out these lower frequencies. You're just going to get that back in your life. Right. So you need to elevate, it's a clear thought, a clear intention with a heightened emotion. And that's kind of that's Joe Dispenza teachings. That's kind of the key to manifestation is that clear thought of what you want. And then, sending that out, connecting to that, becoming it in the present moment. And that's how you send, and being grateful for that. So you're grateful for, whatever you're manifesting a new car, right? You want a new car. So you're sending that out and how would it feel if you were in that new car right now? How would you feel if you just got a new Porsche and you're like sitting in it, driving down the road and, you'd be really very grateful and you'd be happy and have a really heightened emotion. So that's what you want to tap into to manifest, to bring it to you. And so you send that information out and energy informs matter. That's the law of the quantum. So you're sending out this coherent information of, and that heightened emotion of what you want with your brain, and that's going out. And to draw it back to you, use your heart. So your heart's the magnet. So you fall in love with that new car, and that's gonna draw the frequency back to you. And that's when your thought can be collapsed into 3D, physical reality. Information informs matter. It's not the other way around, like most people think that matter is sending out information in the field. No, it's the information from the field that we can change to affect 3D reality, what we're living right now in separation and all that stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so for example, if you're driving around in a car which isn't a Porsche, which is far away from a Porsche, let's just say, and you're trying to manifest and be grateful, and then suddenly you snap out of it and you're like, oh, but I'm in this car which I don't like. That's sort of breaking the cycle in a way that you then become not grateful for a moment. It means you've got a lot further to go to get to where you need to have good power of manifestation.
Exactly. So at that point, you would be in lack. So when you're in a state of lack, it's never going to happen for you. So it's really overcoming that lack. And that's actually something that I really identified. I was at a Joe Dispenza retreat. You guys familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza? Yeah, so I was at a retreat in San Diego, and I was working on some things of my own, and it was a walking meditation. And I was really tapping into what I was trying to create, and it was crazy because I had the heightened emotion, but at the exact same time I had the lack. So I was having both emotions at the exact same time, and I was like doing this, and I'm like, well, this is never going to happen. So what I'm working on for myself is the lack and overcoming the lack, and just really feeling those heightened emotions more, and kind of deprogramming out the lack.
Yeah, right. Well, that was going to be my next question, but obviously, if you're something you're experiencing at the moment is, it's nice to have these thoughts of, yes, I'm going to get that car, I'm going to get that car, but I guess the way society is built around us and everything, suddenly reality might slap you in the face, or you might tell one of your friends, and then or someone close to you in your family, and then they look at you and be like, "Come on, let's be realistic. You're going to go for a Porsche. You should be happy if you get a BMW, maybe." And that the sort of societal pressures around you makes the battle of trying to conquer it that that so much harder, because you've got all these other forces which are dragging you down. So it is quite a mountain to overcome. But I guess once you've
It is, yeah. And that example right there is again, a family. Oh, what are you creating? Can you get a Porsche? Like, what are you talking about? That's somebody else thinking. You can't control that, and they said it to you. So, and you're like, oh my God, just instantly put you in lack. Yeah, you're right. I'm never going to get that. So that's you giving away your power again to somebody else. So it's really kind of like staying within, and really it's not easy. It's not easy. So going through Instagram and seeing all the people, oh, I manifested all this. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, really? Like it's not that easy. It's doable and people do it, but it's work. It takes work, and it is a practice to get to that point, to be able to kind of, shut out all the negativity and all the lower frequencies that are around you that you don't want to succumb to.
Yeah, what I found with Instagram is a lot of people fall prey to the sexiness of the end goal, and that's what's uploaded usually to Instagram, is the end, what happens at the end. But if people can start getting their mindset out of the end goal and start falling in love with the journey and embracing the journey and being grateful for the journey that you're on, that you actually have the opportunity to try and strive for something, then
Yeah,
it makes life a hell of a lot easier.
beautifully said.
How big of a blocker, or I guess this is a two-sided question. So it's around ego, and how big of a problem does one's ego play, and how can they use their ego sort of in their own favor? Because there's no getting rid of the ego, obviously.
Mm. It's funny because I was just on I don't know if are you familiar with the late Dr. Buttar? Okay, so the Dr. Buttar was somebody who was very, probably people, if people are listening to this from Anarchapulco, they'll know who Dr. Buttar is, but he was very outspoken during COVID. He was probably one of the first people to put out a video about how it's, essentially was BS, and, did research into the gates, got 9 million views, and then was canceled, right? So he actually ended up passing away, but I worked very closely with him, and I was on a webinar last night for his community, and the community that's still there. And it was around what's called clerogenics. And this is kind of is plant medicines. And that's what the call was about. And these clerogenics are able to kind of disconnect the part of your brain where the ego is involved. So it's kind of like just muting your ego for 4 or 5 hours, and you're able just to sit there with your pure soul, and kind of go through a journey with that. But anyway, so that's kind of like off topic of what you're asking, but it's just kind of funny because you just asked that, and I just sat there and listened to that last minute.
So they have a plant medicine which can allow you to do this?
Yes, yes. I've gone through this journey. So Dr. Batar went through the journey, and I saw he did a webinar on it, and he actually had a conversation with God, and it's all recorded. And so he was playing back. I mean, you're not, God isn't talking. You're not like, but it's you're hearing him, have this interaction with God, and it's pretty crazy. So I went and did it myself. But yes, so it's a combination of medicines that are highly guarded, and I don't know what they are. They don't tell you what they are to protect themselves, to protect the medicines. It's not ayahuasca, it's not DMT, it's not all the mushrooms. These are completely like, they're called clarigenics. And so that's the clarigenics is that's what it is. It's muting your soul, or sorry, it's muting your ego, shutting down the part of the brain that is your ego, and just silencing that voice so you can sit there with your pure soul. So your pure soul doesn't know danger. It doesn't comprehend time. This is your soul that is multifaceted, multi-dimensional, right? This is you forever. and it's speaking to you without the ego, for around 4 or 5 hours. And it's a pretty amazing journey. It's in the US. The place is called Claravita. You won't be able to find it online. They don't advertise. There's no Google search. There's no advertising. They rely on word of mouth. They rely on people. When it's time for them to find this, they'll find it, and they'll go have journeys. But it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound amazing, because the amount of stuff that ego's tied to, and when you say like it takes away your tracking of time, all of that, when you really knuckle down to it, all of that is on your ego, because you only look at time because you feel like you're running out of it, because you've not done whatever it is you feel like you need to do. So all of that stress being lifted off your shoulders, that must be an immense feeling.
It is. It's insane. Like when you kind of go through that takeoff of the medicine, and you're like, you just kind of like, that part of your brain's being shut down, and it's like you're just kind of like your soul is just kind of like coming to the surface, right? And it just for me, it was like kind of going through. I described it as the lines, as the folds. And what I could only, when I came out of it and go back and listen to the recording, the only analytical way that I could figure that was I was traveling through dimensions, through times, to get to where the medicine was trying to take me. So the medicine has it's going to bring you to what's urgent, what the most urgent things that it wants to communicate with you, or your soul wants to tell you. So yeah, that was a pretty amazing experience, and yeah, to just kind of like lose your ego.
How frequent are people supposed to, or how frequent is it recommended that people do this?
It's so a full program with them is 4 sessions, and that's spread out around a year or so. So the beautiful thing is the integration process with this, because you're working with a coach before. And then you go, you do the journey, you're there for like 3 days, you're so well taken care of. You have your own private apartment, you have an angel with you, a facilitator. They make you comfortable, you go through the journey, you're blindfolded, you're in a bed, they call it the nest, they make it all comfortable, and you're recorded. So everything you're saying is recorded. So then you come off the journey the next day, you're fed good food, you're communing with people, you get a massage, you get IV therapy to replenish yourself. And then you go back home and continue to work with the coach. You have to transcribe the full audio. You have to write it out, every single word, wow, shit, like all the stuff. You have to transcribe it out and work with that coach to kind of find the deeper meaning. So when you come out of it, and we were kind of talking about the ego here, right? So you're egoless, and you're starting to land. They call it land. You're starting to come down off the medicine a little bit. Your ego's, that part of your brain is starting to come back online, and your ego's starting to come back in, and it's going to immediately want to erase all the stuff that was, just shown to you or just communicated with you by your soul. So that's the beauty of the recording. You could go back and be like, wow, I don't even remember that part because your ego just erased it. And you can look for a deeper meaning. So you have about 5 sessions with a coach afterwards to really go through that and find the meaning and things like that.
So do you remember any of it once your ego comes back online, or do you just remember little segments of it?
No. Well, yeah, some segments. There are some bigger things that I'll never forget. That was, so I connected with people who passed on. Their presence was there. They were there. Like it's undeniable when you know the presence of somebody. Like, it was actually a fellow coach of mine who passed on, and she was there. And I actually remember, like, I was like, here, do you want some more room? Like, sit down, like, just stay a while. Like, I think I literally said that. And I think I literally moved over in the bed. So, connecting with, past people who have passed on, best friend, friend from high school recently passed, and, so things like that. But I was also kicking out entities or negative energy or things that were latched on in my body. I was literally kicking those out of my soul or my body. And it was like the medicine was shining a spotlight, like, and dark entities are just trying to, I called them weebles. Like, that was literally the thing I said. It was like a weeble, and it was living behind my heart. Right. So that's where the dark place behind your heart. So it was like the medicine was shining this spotlight, and it was trying to crawl around and go to the next place and try to find its next hiding spot. And I was like, no. Like, look at you. I was like, look at how pathetic and weak you are. Like, it's true. Like, what's the saying? Like, the light will always overcome the darkness, right? Like, isn't that like a saying? So it was like, that was like true for me there. I was like, the light, like, there's nowhere for you to go. And I was like, what am I gonna? I'm gonna like crush you. I'm gonna like, kick you out. And I was like, well, and I was kind of like contemplating, like, well, I'm in a place of love, I'm not in a place of like violence. And that's, so so my thing was I wrapped it with love, and then I sent it off. And as it was wrapped in love, it couldn't go on to the next person and attach to them, or, you know what I mean? So it was just kind of like the death of it wrapped in love. And
it's like a soul cleanse then, to get
it was,
negative
man,
energies
yeah.
out of yourself.
How did you feel after the whole experience? Did you feel like refreshed and cleansed?
I felt great. I mean, so that journey, it's not like you take mushrooms and you go through that experience and then you're done. Like, I was still able to drop into the experience. The medicine was still kind of flowing through, up to like 7 days later. I was at home and I would just put the iPhones on, put the music on. They play the perfect playlist. It's insane. And I was able to kind of drop back in.
So
Yeah.
did it feel like a dream?
Nope.
No.
It was very real. Very, very real. Yeah.
But without the additional coaching sessions afterwards and the transcribing of your what was recorded, do you think a lot of what you experienced there would have just been forgotten about once the ego fully came back in?
For sure. It could be one sentence, one statement that you said out of hours of recording, and that could be life-changing. Now, that wasn't the case for me, but that's what it could just be, one thing that your soul said to you, and it could be a complete game changer. So that's where the recording is like, such a big tool with that particular journey.
It feels like kind of like a relief when you've just gone over your story, because it feels like a relief to know that your ego's not attached to your soul, because and from what you've said, it sort of feels like the ego's what holds a lot of the negative energies which contaminate your body in a sense.
It can, so some people kind of like, there could be a notion where the ego is like a negative thing, right? You need your ego. It protects you. It's what's keeping you looking out for danger and all that stuff. So you need your ego. It's not like you don't want to have your ego, but yeah, to be able to just to spend some time where it's not constantly trying to protect you or predict what's going to happen next, right? That's what your brain is. Your brain's like it's a what do you call it? It's always looking for what's next. It's a anticipation machine, essentially. So to be able to get out of that and just kind of chill out with yourself, and go through some profound things is pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually sounds really, really good.
Yeah. Let me know if you want to. Well, I'll caveat it with this: one journey is $10,000, so it's not cheap, and it's for a reason. This isn't something you're going to. You're going for the weekend and you want to just get high and lose your ego. Like this is serious work, and so that's another reason. And you're treated very well, and that so that includes the coaching, that includes accommodations, food, all that stuff. So yeah,
it does sound it. Yeah, you don't want people just going there to recreationally take the medicine.
Yeah, no, this is work. This is for people who want to evolve and change. Yeah.
And it's very personable as well, because if they price it too low, then you're going to get like parties going to these things. And then, so with your quantum energy coaching, do you work around the ego as well with the people that you coach?
I wouldn't say like I use the word "let's work on your ego." Like I wouldn't say that. I've never said that before. So I guess maybe your ego can help you solidify issues that you want to work on. And so it's actually a good question. I wonder if the ego is I guess it's more a part of the analytical mind because it's trying to protect you from outside. So I'd say it's a little more analytical than it is subconscious. So maybe dealing with things on the subconscious level, as you do that, you're going to kind of deal with the ego as, say, a side effect of that, not directly, I don't know. I don't think anybody would ever come in a session and say, I want to work on my ego. Like, I mean, I've never heard anyone say that before, but maybe someone has. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Well, there's a few reasons why it could be analytical as well, because it's the ego's on the status side as well. So they're constantly competing with, I guess then it comes back to tribal instincts and competing with other tribes and trying to be.
For sure, and there could even be like a multi-general facet to that of your ego. Where did you come from in your roots and what happened in past generations in your lineage? That's all imprinted in your DNA. That's all probably going to affect your subconscious mind. It could even be playing into your ego as well.
Oh yeah, that is true. Have you had any skepticism? And I'm going to go down the route of within the science community on the type of work that you do.
I mean, I welcome skepticism. Like that's good to be skeptical. I think some people are probably a little too skeptical, and kind of like, just, where's your source? What's the source? You know what I mean? It's just like, can you use your body a little bit? Like feel into what does your gut say about that? Get out of your mind. And like, if you're presented with something that sounds a little crazy, sounds a little too good to be true. Okay. Yeah. Be analytical about it and research it and ask for the source. But like, if someone doesn't provide you a peer-reviewed scientific paper, like instantly, don't dismiss it. Like sit with it and feel it. Like use your body. I use my body a lot as an instrument in quantum energy coaching. I can feel the person is if they're describing a sexual harassment to me and how they felt in that. I don't feel good when I'm sitting there listening to that. Like I can feel that. And sometimes I need to take a moment. Like, thank you for sharing. Can we just take a moment? Because I need to like deal with that. Like, and just kind of tell myself that's not my story. That's not my energy. Like, so I use my body all the time as an instrument. And if they're coming up, like say, where do you feel that emotion in your body? And if they're kind of struggling with that, like, well, if I felt it somewhere, more than likely that's where it came from them. So I can kind of like hint at it. You feel it lower in your body or higher, or, and it can kind of help identify the areas of, where things are going on.
So what, like initially, well, how did you get on this path of that you're on today, the quantum energy coaching?
So, I mean, so my first rabbit hole, and I can feel safe kind of talking about this, since you guys are, so you found me through Anarchapulco, so I'm sure there's going to be like-minded people listening to this. So my first rabbit hole, when I was like, I'm a chef by trade. I was a private chef working in San Diego. My uncle had lung cancer. They gave him the old, there's nothing more we can do for you. Go home and get your affairs in order. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is America, right? Best hospitals, best doctors, like nothing more we can do for you. So I was like, well, let's see if there's any more we could do for you. And so I got online, and I distinctly remember coming across a story of, it was a man and a wife. He had some form of cancer, and his wife would juice him broccoli every single day. So he would drink broccoli juice. And he went into remission, and he's like, cure, not to, maybe the broccoli juice played a part. I'm not going to say broccoli juice cures cancer, but his mindset, everything. So that was my rabbit hole into kind of the medical system, which led to the financial system. So I became a health coach. I was like, I was kind of intrigued by it. Also, I kept digging deeper and all the stuff. So I became a health coach. And then I met Dr. Batar. He had a conference, and I went there, and he was looking for coaches. So I hopped on board and became a coach with him in his programs. And then he was approached by Dr. Melanie Salmon, who's the founder of QEC, of Quantum Energy Coaching. And she just saw him online during the COVID era, and the COVID days. And, it spoke to what he was doing, was speaking to her. And she said, would you like to check this out? And maybe it would help you. And so he did a session with her, and was like, that's amazing. And she was starting training. So all the coaches that were working with Dr. Batar, we all went through the training together for quantum energy. So I can blame Dr. Batar for essentially leading me to all these like insane life-changing experiences, like going through the training of quantum energy coaching. That was life-changing. Dr. Joe Dispenza, I went to my first retreat. Dr. Batar was at a retreat, and they said there was an extra ticket, and I showed up there. That was life-changing. In a walking meditation on a beach, I just like essentially released like the past 40 years of my life. And then beyond that, and then the cryogenic journey. Dr. Batar went through that first, and then I followed him in that as well. So blame it all on Dr. Batar.
Do you think since the pandemic, there's been a lot more people who are interested in alternative forms of healthcare rather than the weird sort of medical industry, which has been set up at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, yeah, and I think it's only escalating, and I really think that the world's shifting, and I think people are really waking up to consciousness and the healing ability of consciousness. Like in a quantum energy session, or like I was describing manifesting. So energy informs matter, right? So if you're, and this is, so maybe for people who, if anyone's listening, that say like, what consciousness can like affect health and like healthcare? Well, it's being proven right now. Actually, there's Dr. Joe Dispenza is doing science. I've been very involved in that, and it's going to change healthcare consciousness, whether it's through coherence healings. I mean, we do healings on people, like remote healings. All we need is a picture, because everyone's connected in the field. Would you want to hear about this? Yeah. So, okay. So energy informs matter. So if you're sick, if you have cancer, your body is in a lower frequency, right? It's not functioning optimally. You're in a low frequency state. So in an event like a Joe Dispenza event, or they have coherence remote like official groups that will do healings on people. All right, so I'll take an in-person healing as an example that we do at the retreat. So someone is laying on the floor, and there's 8 chairs around them. And granted, this is like 1,500 people in a ballroom, so there's maybe a couple hundred people on the floor, and everybody else, and it's just a whole ballroom of this. And so the person on the floor is in a lower frequency state. There's something wrong with them. They have a disease, or they're healing from something. And it doesn't have to be like cancer. It could be like a broken arm. It could be trauma. This is another form of, releasing, changing the subconscious mind as well. So the person's on the floor, lower vibrational state. We as healers get into our hearts. We get into heart-brain coherence. We get into our hearts, into the frequency of love. How much love do you have in your heart? How much love do you have? How much love would you feel if you knew that a person laying here below you, you could heal them and you could reverse all issues? Like, how much love would you have in your heart if you knew that was possible? So that's what happens. And we essentially, we put our palms out, you get into your heart and your brain, and you're in a very heightened emotional state, very high frequency. So I'm sending out my higher frequency of, over the field of this person. And so there's 8 other people. So it's my frequency, their frequency, boom, boom, boom. You get like 8 frequencies that are going to bring this uber heightened state over that person's body. So information informs matter, right? So you change the information in the field of that person, it's possible that you can change the matter. So there's been instances where someone has had a tumor, and you change the information in the field of that person, the tumor is gone, like within seconds. It's there, and then it was gone because you changed the person's energy. So you can do that yourself. You can change your own energy. Another Dispenza quote is, you change your energy, you change your life. And that's absolutely true. So in regards to how you were saying about healthcare and have people's perspectives changed in that? I think yes. And there's going to be a documentary coming out, actually. So I'm a very advanced student of Joe Dispenza, so that's why I'm bringing him up so much. I've been to like 25 retreats. And so they just made a documentary called Source. It's within you. And they're doing science in these retreats. Like, I've been in, probably like 5 or 6 studies where they're drawing blood. We're doing microbiome samples, urine, saliva. They've taken tears, your brain mapped. Like, I've been through all of this. And they're showing the change in the body after, just from meditation, just from being conscious. So consciousness is gonna have a huge role in medicine coming, and it's kind of all stemming out of UC San Diego right now. Like, the scientists are a part of UCSD, and they're doing all the research there. They've published 1 paper. There's plenty more in the pipeline, like crazy papers on twins, on breast milk, on just everything, like, and just the effects of that happen to you after 7 days of meditation. Like, you're in a whole new body. It's pretty insane.
Have you thought much about how ancient civilizations use these sort of practices to heal themselves or heal people around them? And have you thought about where did humanity go, like, in a completely different path, where we're so reliant on man-made medicines and all sorts of processed food and all that crap?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where, like, how it happened or where along the line this was all thought of, but I mean, you can just like look at like fluoride in the water, right? Fluoride calcifying the pineal gland. And I always hate like saying the word they, because who's they? It's always they're doing this and them and that. But so they put fluoride in the water, right? So they don't want us to be in touch with our spiritual side, our consciousness, and calcifying the pineal gland, shutting down that frequency, and it not being able to do anything. That's going to be a whole a whole aspect of that, of what you're saying, how, you know, the ancients, they didn't have fluoride in the water. They didn't have all this shit in the food. So they were able, you know, they were conscious. They could, you know, they could sit there and access their pineal gland and, you know, use that transducer to receive, you know, energy and information from the cosmos, the creator, the quantum field, whatever you want to call it.
Is there a way to remove fluoride out of the water?
Out of the water, out of like, I guess, you know, obviously filter your water and try to get to the best water source. I wouldn't be drinking tap water in major populated areas and city centers and cities and stuff.
Because another thing that concerns me about drinking bottled water is microplastics from the plastic bottle. So
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes it's a lose-lose situation. You have a drink from the tap or you drink. But even if you drink from the tap, you're drinking microplastics, right? Because
I know, totally. Yeah. I think I heard something about, and I don't know the time frame, but it was, maybe it's a year that we consume a credit card worth of plastic every year. Like, so there's a credit card of microplastics in our body. What? So that the calcification of your pineal gland, that can be reversed. You can decalcify your pineal gland by placing energy on it, activating it, you know, sending energy to it with your attention. You can decalcify your pineal gland and be able to be in contact with probably what, you know, ancient civilizations were able to. I mean, they were able to, like, you know, what do you call it when you're floating, you're levitating, like there was like levitation, all that stuff, right?
Well, they
I don't
definitely seem to have had more time, in the sense that they weren't distracted by every single possible thing that they could be. Because, I mean, if you look at the day-to-day of your average person today, their sole purpose is go to work, commute to work, come back, and then cook, look after your children or whatever, and then just binge TV. So you never, if you actually look at the day-to-day life of your average person, when you want to talk about like me time or your own personal time, most people have 0% of that. Maybe that short amount of time before they go sleep, but at that point, most people are watching TV anyway.
Yep. What a thing, right? To be able to be doing that, or on your phone scrolling, you know, that's the last thing that you see before you go to sleep, you know. That's crazy, you know, like, try a new practice, you know, just get into do heart coherent breaths when you're in bed going to sleep. You're about to fall asleep, and just have gratitude for the day, and, you know, just find that heart brain coherence is a beautiful place. Go to sleep with a sense of gratitude, or, you know, not what you just saw in like TV. There's a frequency coming out of the TV that's going to affect you as well. So yeah, just for sure, try to get back in touch with that consciousness. And like you were saying, like, yeah, it's the system is crazy of yeah, just going to work. And I mean, it's just such a slave system, right? It's one of the reasons I got out of the States. I just wanted to break free from all that. And that happened in a conscious experience. It was a walking meditation on a beach at a Joe Dispenza, my very first Joe Dispenza retreat. So I had a little bit of a head start of like, I knew what it was like. I knew the feeling to connect to the quantum field from doing all the quantum energy coaching. So I went to this retreat, and you know, there's meditations called like blessing of the energy center. So your chakra system, right? 1 through 8. So there's a meditation where you go through each chakra and you just put your attention on it and activate it and give it energy. And that can allow energy to move up through your body. And so I was always like, I need to find someone to, you know, I need my chakras aligned. Like, who can do that for me? Right. You know, I went to that retreat. I was sitting here doing that meditation. I was like, crap, I can just do this myself. I am doing this myself. Right. So I had that little head start of knowing the feeling to connect to the quantum field. And then I was doing that energy. So in that walking meditation on the beach, we're doing just that. And there's a point where you lay down, and you lay down after the meditation that you've kind of focused, and you lay down, and you kind of surrender and just surrender to oneness, surrender to God, to the creator, whatever it is for you. And that energy from the base, from my perineum, my first chakra, my first energy center, that energy just moved up my entire body. It hit my brain, and it was like a rebirth. It was a complete release. And, long story short, after I quit my corporate job, I moved, I was like, I'm done with all of this. Like, none of it resonates anymore. It was just like, I was on this like new heightened level. And it just like that whole, slave system, just, it didn't resonate anymore. I was like, what am I doing? I'm out,
Yeah, I guess once you've woken up in that way, and then if you were to return back to it, business as usual, you would feel
once you can't unknow. You can't go back to business as usual. It's impossible.
Yeah, you just wouldn't be comfortable at all. Like, it would be a nightmare, a living nightmare the whole time. So let's say someone's listening, an audience member's listening, who is in that corporate job, and they want to maybe try not watching TV one night and try connecting with themselves. How would you advise them is the best way to start sort of trying to figure out their chakras for themselves?
I would say join me tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. I host a meditation every Tuesday night. So that could try, and that's, if you're on the East Coast, it's not too good for you guys over across the pond.
Although our audience is primarily American anyway, so
yeah. So yeah, you join my meditation, and that's can give you a good we practice heart brain coherence a lot. We move through the centers, mostly four. Your heart center is four. Your pineal gland is your sixth center. So we do a lot of work there. Last week we did a healing meditation the other day. We do work on manifestations, a lot of healing, actually. Yeah, working on healing people. Whether we're working on somebody specifically or they're working on themselves. So yeah, I mean,
do you only do those live, or can you access them like the next?
Yes, no. There are some posted on a site called ClickView. It's CLIKView.com. And if you search Tuesday Night Meditations, you'll find my page, and I probably have like a dozen posted there. So yeah, you definitely go back and do those. If somebody wanted to join the live meditations, go to so I took these meditations over after Dr. Buttar passed. So go to drbuttar.info, and it's BUTTAR, and you can register for those weekly meditations, Tuesday night meditations there. But to answer your question, what could somebody do who wants to start practice? I would say just start practicing heart-brain coherence. Start heart coherence. Do that heart coherent breath. It's easy. You can do that at any point. You can. Yeah, I do that even if I'm like in an airport. Like, I'm not going to stand there with my hands over my heart. Like, that might be a little awkward. I mean, I actually really don't care like what people think about me, but I could just be walking, and just as you take a breath in, just envision your heart expanding and your heart contracting as you're breathing. Just breathe with your heart. That right there is going to pull you out of your analytical mind. It's going to calm you down, ground you a little bit. And then you can take that same feeling and put it in your brain. So then breathe into your brain, breathe into your pineal gland, expand that, contract that. Just envision it, your pineal gland. It's a little pine cone shaped gland right in the center of your head. Just breathe into it. Imagine you're in the middle of it, and those walls are expanding and contracting as you breathe. And then when you get good, you do it both at the same time. So you can envision your heart and your brain breathing into that. And then you're in heart-brain coherence. And that's going to be how the world changes. That's the step, heart-brain coherence. So, and that's kind of a, if you can do that when you're, at the airport, I do it all. If I'm in the airport, I always do that. I'm always practicing heart-brain coherence. Like, walking as a mystic, that's what I practice.
What year was it you moved to where you are at the moment?
It was a couple years ago. Yeah, like it's been here like 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was the
So
reception
that
that you got from the people around
moving here.
you, and the reasons behind your move? Yeah.
Well, I people, yeah, why did you move? Why did what happened? And I'll kind of say, I just wanted to live life a little differently. And then from there, I can kind of see what kind of state of mind they're in. Am I going to be able to go down the road for real why I moved here? And if I can, I usually say, well, first off, I'm an anarchist. And then, okay, well, that makes sense then.
Yeah. Well, because I
Yeah.
do really feel like we're at a position now where we can go and talk to these people, but you do have to weigh up what if they're still sort of stuck or if they've even slightly awoken, then they're open to the conversation. But do you feel like over the last couple of years that increases that amount of people has opened up vastly that are more engaging in these conversations?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like you got to be super asleep to not see the tyranny happening, right?
Mm.
I mean, it's just
But there
it's
are a
just
lot of
right there.
people who are fast asleep that
Well,
around me.
they're programmed. That's what it is. They're programmed. They've been programmed to, like, do it. And one person who, I don't know if you're familiar with Jason Christoff, like he's spoken at Acapulco, I think a couple of years ago. He wasn't there this year, but he's like the ultimate like program guy. He's just like, this is how they program you, and this is exactly how they do it. Like it's pretty crazy. He's on point with all that. But yeah, they're programmed, so they're asleep, and it's really not their fault. Like if something doesn't happen that you unprogram yourself, you're gonna live in the program, right? It's the matrix.
How do you think, is it possible for us to help unprogram people in a subtle way?
Yes, it is. In my honest opinion, it's becoming conscious. When you're in a conscious state, if you're in a heightened conscious state, you emulate a field that can affect. And I think it's around, if you were in a football stadium and you were meditating while everyone's watching a football game, you're going to affect like pretty much everyone, or like tens of thousands of people around you. Like you're gonna affect their field in some way. Could be the slightest small way where no one even is going to notice. They're not going to notice, but just by doing that, you've made a change in their physiology. It could be the slightest pin tip of a change, but you do make a change. Every time you meditate, every time you become conscious, you make a change somehow, somewhere. So it's just, and I'm going to go back to Joe Dispenza here, and case in point. And this is actually, I'm glad I just thought of this, because coming up on April 21st, I think that's Saturday, this is going to be the third Walk for the World. So if you go to Joe Dispenza's website and register for Walk for the World, you'll get a free walking meditation from him. And so this will be the third time we've done it. So he partnered with HeartMath Institute from California, and they have devices placed all around the world that measure the Schumann resonance of the entire Earth, right? So after this Walk for the World, so the first one was about a couple 100,000 people all over the world at the same time did a walking meditation, and it changed the Schumann resonance of the entire Earth by those people getting together as a flock, as a herd, in a higher frequency state. It affected the entire Earth. So that's happening again on I believe it's the 21st. I think it's like Saturday.
So you say this is the third time it's happening?
Third time, yeah.
Third time.
Yeah. Yep.
Sunday that.
Yeah. So I truly do believe consciousness, it's everyone's waking up. Like there's, the age of Aquarius. I'm not really into that. I don't know too much about that. The eclipse, I felt that. I don't know too much about all that stuff either. Like it's not really my thing, but I felt a shift. I felt a shift in the new year, and I felt a shift after that eclipse as well.
A lot of people that we've spoken to, probably ourselves included, as soon as 2024 came along, it felt different. Like as soon as we entered 2024. And a lot of people that we've spoken to in 2024 over the last 3.5 months have all said that 2023 feels like a really important year.
Yeah.
Well, I remember on New Year's Eve when the countdown was going on, I felt like a feeling of real hope for some reason. Like during those 10 seconds, I just felt like remember I told you come after? I just felt like a real feeling of hope. And I think it's a bit, I don't know, it just took me by surprise. Maybe because the past 3 years have been a bit strange with everything going on. But yeah, I felt a real sense of hope on New Year's Eve, which I thought was good. It was pretty cool.
Nice. Well, keep that feeling and keep that memory, keep remembering that. Don't let that slip, by the wayside after the years. Like keep that as a hardwire that. So keep remembering that emotion, how you felt then, and hardwire that into your brain. And that's raising consciousness right there. Could be something just as little as that, Yeah. It's so much easier to forget things than to remember,
because I completely forgot it until Cam just mentioned then that everyone felt like change, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that now.
We're shifting the world right here, just 3 of us.
Yeah, I think what you're doing as well by having these weekly meditation sessions, it gives people the opportunity to sketch out some time to come and they can reflect on the week they've had, and them sort of good feelings that you get, jot them down. And whenever you attend, it doesn't just have to be yours, but it can be your own personal private session, just to use what you've got in your journal in them meditations. I think, personally, something I'm taking away from this call is to do something along them lines and to try and, like you said, hardwire certain experiences and emotions that I have into my conscious or subconscious mind. It's been great. But it feels like almost as if it's a snowball effect. And what you've been talking about today backs up my thoughts around it, that the more people that wake up and get together and do these things, and even us three here having this conversation will be emitting the frequencies that help other people. So it brings, like, in my head, imagine the stadium full of people who were all meditating at the same time. If that 10,000 people in the stadium or 30,000 people in the stadium were all meditating at a time, what sort of impact that could do? Is that the sort of thing that Joe Dispenza's trying to achieve on this journey?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Raising consciousness and just giving people the tools to be able to change. Essentially, that's what he does. That's what his company does. Just giving the tools for people to change.
Has he chosen the date, the 21st of April, because it's the spring equinox?
Could be. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, could be. Yeah. It's interesting when when we do those in-person coherence healings, they have been putting random event generators under the stage. And so a random event generator does a coin toss. It's like 50-50, like, it's just doing coin tosses essentially. And it's usually around 50-50, but when we start doing those coherence healings, that it becomes less. So that's just random coin tosses, right? And so those coin tosses become less random, and you really literally see a shift in a machine. We're like changing the way a machine is functioning. That's just set there to do 50-50 coin tosses. It's changing as well when we raise the energy in the room and have heightened frequency. It changes, machinery. Yeah.
I think I'll also give a read over did you say it was one report that San Diego have come out with at the moment and they're currently working on more?
Yes. Yeah. If you go to Dr. Joe Dispenza's website, drjoedispenza.com, I believe it's you'll find it. You'll find the research there. I believe it's called Evidence is the Loudest Voice. And you can watch a replay of the presentation on that paper. And of course that was before it was published. Now it's officially published. And you can see that empirically peer reviewed paper in Science Direct, like totally like Dr. Hamel Patel is like a super accredited scientist, right? He worked with NASA in like the twin study, where they had one twin in space and one on Earth, like that. He was the one who did that study. And so he's doing the all the research on meditation. And do you want me to like come to summarize what that paper says?
If you want to, yeah, definitely.
So essentially, it was based around COVID. So they made a quasi spike protein, right, which represents the coronavirus. So in a week long retreat, advanced meditators produced a protein called serpin A5. And this is a family of proteins. It's well known. It's not some like hocus pocus thing. But so serpin A5 was very heightened in the bodies of the meditators after, and that protein chopped off the spikes of the spike protein. So the virus was unable to enter the cells of advanced meditators. All right. So they had the full control of someone who doesn't meditate at all, a novice meditator, and then an advanced meditator. And you can see like the white splotches are like, well, okay. So you see the advanced meditators and like the cell is covered in this white, like kind of fuzz, and that's virus unable to get in. And then you go down to, a novice meditator and like, there's a little bit of fuzz. And then, somebody who doesn't meditate at all, it's like a cell because everything's inside. So that was essentially a very rough, short summary of what that paper was.
Wow. Okay. And is that not getting pushback from the powers at the top of the chain?
It did. So when they first tried to publish that was in like, I think it was in like early 2022 or something like that. And it was too hot of a topic. Nobody would comment on the paper. They couldn't get the peer review. So they retried again. And, a year later they got the peer review and it got published. So I wouldn't say put pushback, but it was just too hot of a topic for scientists. They didn't want to put their name on the line, at that point.
Yeah. But it definitely feels like we've turned the corner where people have sat with it, and it feels like COVID was something that's been now. So it feels like a lot more people are sort of coming out the woodwork a bit with a bit more confidence. So that must be a good thing. Definitely for all of this work that's going on here, it definitely sounds like it's on the road to some success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I mean, just consciousness it can shift medicine. It can also protect yourself. So if you meditate a lot and you're able to connect to that that frequency, and you're giving yourself protection against viruses and things like that. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Shall we wrap this one up here?
Yeah. Thanks for today, Aaron. You've been great.
No, thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing. We've had
I appreciate you guys having me, and anytime. I had a great time.
Yeah, I think the whole conversation actually, I could feel the frequency throughout. It felt like
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers, Aaron.
There it is. Cheers. Thank you. We'll see you guys at Acapulco one year.
Yeah, definitely. Well, when we decide to come over, we'll give you a shout beforehand.
Yeah, please do. Sounds great.